It started. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. And so this is the first point what I was trying to see. Okay. Uh, I was trying to go through your profile and I didn't find much about you. So, and I'm more of a deep diver where I basically try to deep dive into people and understand their history, the journey. And you
Okay.
have told, you have in the comment you said, I'm not the third one, but I was among the 58th
Yep.
employee in exact target, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So let's start with the exact target.
Okay. What would you like to know?
Okay. So uh, when did you started your exact target days? And
It was March of 2003. It was a nice day. My friend Jeff Hansen told me about the position that had just opened up. They were hiring, and I came in and interviewed, and it was a good start. I loved the company as soon as I walked in the door, and they're great people, and it was a great place to work at.
so in 2003, when this exact target was that a growing company at that time, or it was just like a new startup or something?
It was kind of in between. It was there were a few kind of big customers. I remember like Career Builder was a big customer, and we had a lot of work going on at the time to help their list segment. That was a big focus. But it was still a lot of small businesses. I still remember one of the first customers, Wild Birds Unlimited, was there. But yeah, we serviced kind of the gamut from the beginning. We were always trying to get the big customers, but at the beginning, our bread and butter was the small and medium businesses, and occasionally get a big enterprise. But uh, yeah, it was kind of a mix. You could tell that the company was really trying hard to get a foothold in the market, and it didn't take very long, honestly.
Yeah. And now when you see this company, how do you feel like, okay, though I still, though is a sales now is a Salesforce company, but still, when I have to log in, it will always be the exact target URL. So I always relate to the exact target one. So how do you feel now when you see this company?
Well, obviously, a lot has changed since the Salesforce acquisition in 2013. The exact target culture stuck around for a little bit before the Salesforce
Mhm.
culture and Ohana kind of was the name of the game. But yeah, I mean, when I still go into the application, I still see pieces that I wrote like a long, long time ago. It's amazing how long code that you write can stick around in certain situations. But yeah, it's kind of like putting on an old comfy sweater when I log into the application. Sometimes I miss working in that code base sometimes, but yeah, I enjoyed helping the customers a lot and building cool things that our customers enjoyed. And there's still a lot of stuff that I'm very, very proud of that I wrote in the Marketing Cloud application.
Yeah, definitely. I'll dig there, like what you did in exact target and all till your journey. So, what we do first is let's start with your journey from your childhood days, okay? And before you came to exact target, let's start that one, and then slowly we have time. We'll go one by one.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in the Chicago area, so kind of in the Midwest my whole life until I moved out here to Colorado. But I
Mhm,
went to Purdue University and started in electrical engineering, but changed to computer science about midway through. And then
mhm,
I started working for the university at a Purdue Research Park spinoff, creating high school biology CD-ROMs for kids to learn microscopy and other microscope skills, cell uh, biology, that sort of stuff. It was kind of cool,
mhm.
but unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. So when that ended, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and walked into Exact Target. Um, and yeah, things kind of progressed from there. But it
Mhm.
kind of got stuck in Indiana for a while once I went to Purdue.
So, when you're talking about CD-ROM, right?
Hmm.
So, I remember like initially whenever we used to buy laptops, we used to have that DVD-ROM
Hmm.
that we used to basically, burn that and basically add the files and all.
Yep.
So, a lot of things nowadays we don't do that. Boarding the cities, having that space, you need to have a
Yeah.
big space that you have to push in into your computer and all. So
Yeah,
a
it
lot
was
of things have
definitely
changed.
interesting working on physical media than it is working on online software. Obviously, if you have a mistake that you make, you have to either patch it somehow. And on the early days, working with educators that weren't very technically savvy, it was an interesting conversation, an interesting market to go into. And at the time, it was because we were trying to be cross-platform because education, had to support, especially
Mhm.
Macs were big in education at the time, probably still are. I haven't seen the numbers recently,
Mhm.
but it was JavaScript, HTML, all running in a browser off the CD-ROM. So it was kind of web-ish, but on a CD. This was back
Yeah.
in 2000, 2001. So kind of before jQuery and all the cool JavaScript helpers. It was really a lot of handwritten JavaScript and trying to make things work in IE4, which was not everyone's favorite browser
Mhm.
at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember like when I started my computer science, that I did a diploma when I started 2003 when I completed my class 10.
Hmm.
We used to write MS-DOS, and that was we used to do in the floppy. We used to
Hmm.
carry a floppy and carry that. We have to copy that into a floppy, okay, and we used to protect it very, uh, very. It's like that time virus used to infect the floppy, and
Oh yeah.
formatting. When we formatting was the most bad thing. Like I'll say, I have written a lot of codes there. Okay,
Hmm.
in DOS and all. And suddenly, if for that floppy becomes unreadable, now my only option is to format the floppy. So I love floppy more than the CD because
Hmm.
for formatting CD was not enough. You have that DVD and the CD, so you have the two different type of version, right?
Hmm.
So CD is much cheaper, but the DVD is little costlier for us as a student. And if we have to format like for reusable, we need to have the DVD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the DVDs were really write once. They didn't have, or at least the
Yeah.
rewritable DVDs were somewhat expensive and a lot slower to write at the time. So if time was a problem, you had to go with the write once stuff. And yeah, I hope you got it right at the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still remember like when I got introduced to Visual Basic. So the Visual Basic book will come with a CD,
Hmm.
where they will basically all this documentation is stored
Yep.
in that CD, right?
The old
So
MSDN days.
yeah, MSDN days. So MSDN is one of my favorite way where I started my programming.
Yep.
So I used to always store, take the backup of the CD in my computer so that I don't want to lose the MSDN. If I lose the MSDN, then I'm no more a programmer that time.
Yeah, one of my fun exercises was we at Exact Target. There at the beginning there was a lot of VBCom written for the application. When I started, it was all ASP and VBCom. I actually wrote
Oh,
the first
yeah.
.NET service for Exact Target back in 2003. But I remember we still had to keep those com DLLs for backwards compatibility around for a long time, and eventually by like
Mhm.
2015 or so, being able to compile VB6 was very
Mhm.
very difficult because the VB6, at least to even get it to install on Windows, it required like a Microsoft Java, which if you guys
Yeah.
remember that thing when Microsoft
Mhm.
and Sun were fighting over Java and who could actually
Oh,
create Java applications, Microsoft created their own Java, and it was a required thing to install VB6. So you had to put like a
mhm.
fake DLL on the machine so it would actually install, and there was all sorts of hoops you had to jump through. But yeah, I was it was a very happy day when I retired all those DLLs and made it so we didn't have to build those things and keep that legacy stuff around. That was a happy day at Salesforce.
Yeah, yeah. I still, whatever you're saying, I'm able to recollect those DLLs and all. Like
Hmm.
for me, installing VB6 was the most hectic thing that like pop up all those pop-ups that used to
Hmm.
float around, right? To get the editor, it was for me like uh, install it, and I want the editor. So that editor part, like a lot of that pop-ups and all. I still remember. No, no, no,
Yeah, the
new
early
edit.
days of the internet, especially, it was all pop ups and repeating
Mm.
pop-ups and everything else. Kids these days don't remember the good old days of having to close or force quit your browser because too many little pop-ups had appeared in a loop and you couldn't get anything done. It totally took over your screen. That's fun times.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, it was a huge revelation once we started working in .NET and there were more tools for debugging and tracing and everything else involved. It was a huge step up, and yeah,
Mm.
keeping that VB stuff around was a huge pain for a long time.
Yeah.
Don't
And
miss it.
yeah, yeah, .NET framework, I was like, going to the ADO.NET and other all different aspects of the .NET.
Hmm.
Nowadays, I sometimes feel like, okay, what I'm doing, clicking on the button.
I
Oh,
still like .NET a lot. I think it's still a great framework, and they're still doing really
mm,
cool stuff. .NET Core or just .NET Standard, whatever they're calling it these days, is pretty impressive. And now that it actually runs outside of Windows and everywhere else that has the .NET framework is pretty cool. It's kind of what I think the intent for Java was. It just took a long time, and it's I like Java too, but think I like .NET a little bit better. I think the debuggability is a little bit better, and obviously Java's been around a little bit longer and has a lot more libraries to choose from. But sometimes that can cause problems when there's too much stuff to choose from, and you have to support all that. And people have chosen different ways to do JavaScript notation and that sort of stuff. There's 9 different ways to do it, and not all compatible sometimes.
yeah.
Too many
Uh,
choices.
Yeah, yeah. I did PHP also and also with Java, but I don't know. I didn't like that much of Java maybe because of the UI and the libraries and all, and we have to install that Eclipse and all. So I don't know. Maybe my inclination with the UI towards the VB was more interesting. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, Visual Studio they have a very comprehensive documentation and all. So that's why my inclination moved towards .NET.
yeah,
That happened, and DLL is one of the most interesting thing that I used to, do all these things. Then even if I can go to the IIS and configuring those IIS and all. So that was the interesting thing. Like the journey was good, but yeah,
mhm,
suddenly yeah, I came to marketing cloud, and sometimes I feel like okay, whatever I've learned, maybe I don't know if I'll get some opportunity to do similar things there. What I used to do there, uh,
yeah,
and I even went to MBC, ASP.NET MBC. Till that point, I was in .NET, and with MBC, Microsoft basically they were hiding the controllers, the factory controllers. I was able to debug up to the factory controller. I was very happy,
yep,
but yeah, the
yeah.
shift happened to
A few years
VP.
ago, when Microsoft put out online all of the source code for .NET, it was very eye opening. We did find a couple
Yeah.
things going through the code that like, wow, we really should have done this differently. Now that I see the implementation and how they did this, it's like we really chose the wrong class to do something. And
Mm,
yeah, I think that was a good thing. I'm always in favor of opening open source and making sure
mm,
that things can be looked at and tinkered with and fixed by anyone with the ability to do so. I think that's a really cool thing, and I'm a big
mm.
proponent of open source and that sort of stuff. And I'm glad Microsoft has more embraced that in the last 10 years or so than they previously had. They were very closed minded and anti competitive. And once they opened things up, I think that really helped .NET take off and all of their other related technologies get a foothold. It was a good
Yeah,
move by them.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like the open source basically helps in a lot of big way. And when they were not opening up, like as I was saying, like MBC, right? So
Hmm.
in MBC, that if they open up the factory controller, then they will see a lot of the same happen when they actually the Angular JS one make them realize the to that they have to be little open now
Yep.
because AngularJS with the open source people understood okay what we can exploit .NET also. So
Yep.
.NET framework exploitation happened with Angular. For me, that's my understanding that it opened the door for the Microsoft to make it little open.
Yep. For sure.
So uh, coming to you back with your,
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a lot of the Marketing Cloud, a lot of the cool features, the email preview functionality. When Marketing Cloud or ExactTarget started getting a lot more scripting technologies for emails, AmpScript was developed and eventually SSJS. It was a lot harder for customers to predict what their email was going to look like once it was sent. So I'm just like, well, we've got all this cool code now where we can quickly render an
Mm,
email. Let's put this into the browser so someone can actually see what their email renders like once they tie it to a data source and have some confidence that it's going to look like what they expect without having to do like a seed test list with all their different permutations for either dynamic
mm,
content or AMP script. Um, it it just seemed to me it was customers needed a way to see what they were doing and have confidence in what they were building. So I kind of over a weekend put together the email preview functionality and kind of showed it to the leadership and like, hey, what do you guys think of this? I'm like, oh my god, that is awesome. I know Scott McCorkle was always a big fan of hyping that up. Is like, this is what we need. We need people to kind of see between the lines and come up with new features that we our customers need that maybe we haven't thought about, and it really empowered developers to come up with new functionality and not necessarily stuff that product had in mind, but was stuff that product needed to
mm.
keep customers happy in the ecosystem. And there
So,
was a lot more of that started once people saw that you could really come up with something cool and develop it on your own time, and the company will embrace it and develop it and keep it part of the product.
so you are saying that preview one that was not there initially in Exact Target.
Yeah, no, that was something that was just an idea that just came to life spontaneously. It wasn't something that was really planned or in the product roadmap. It was just something I noticed there was a gap and thought we have the technology to do it, so let's freaking do it.
So it is quite surprising for me. Okay, uh, so when you're composing an email, okay, and
Hmm.
you are not basically previewing how it is getting rendered, and how the customer should get the confidence saying that that what you have built is 100% correct if you don't
Yeah,
have a preview.
it was all about doing, making your perfect seed list, making sure that your data that you were testing with had all of the various data points that could cause different rendering of your email, and it was a lot of just sending, waiting for it to get delivered to your inbox,
Mm.
and just kind of hoping. It took a lot more
Okay.
time, for sure, and it was a lot more problematic for customers, especially when they didn't necessarily think about every permutation that could happen because of the script that they put in or because of
Mm.
dynamic content. Yeah, it was just. I think it was just the right place at the right time to develop that, and it just happened. It just worked out well.
Then for me, this preview is a most of a dynamic shift in the exact target,
Hmm.
right? And
Yep.
I'm finding someone who basically developed this, and that is even more dynamic shift for me.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Smart Capture was my creation.
My God.
Uh, the first thing I ever wrote was Web Collect. That was the first .NET code that was put in ExactTarget in 2003. Was Web Collect, and that code is still there, kind of in way, shapes, or form,
Mm.
some way, shape, or form. Um, Server-side JavaScript, I didn't put the initial version in, but I was the one who primarily supported it. So all of the expansion on SSJS from its initial development and insertion into the code. If you ever use the parse JSON function, that was something that I put in because people were sick of using eval and it executing functions accidentally. So a lot of that, a lot of the stuff in SSJS beyond, you know, the initial implementation were just kind of me tinkering with it. And yeah, I still miss SSJS. I think it's a really cool technology, and I wish I could have evolved it further. But
Well, this conversation is going to be very technical now. Till
okay,
now, I haven't done this technical discussion, and you have for me, you have opened me the Pandora box.
oh,
So, mm, before going, I want to go to the technical part. Okay,
okay.
but before that, I understand your that biology, the CD-ROM, that what you are doing. Okay, but let's go little back, little more. Okay, if you can explain your childhood days first. Let's start from there.
Start
How was your childhood days?
my what? Sorry, I couldn't quite make out what you said.
Childhood, yeah, when you were a small kid, like what you
Oh,
used
my
to
childhood.
think, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was always into, electronics and technology. I had, Apple II back in the day and Apple II GS back when I was in school. So I was always kind of tinkering in BASIC. I was lucky enough to get introduced into programming in junior high. My school district had a bunch of Apple IIs, so I was really lucky. Beyond playing Oregon Trail, which everyone did back at the time, I was able
Mhm,
to actually do some programming and actually learn some real skills besides just playing games on them. So I always had fun
mhm,
playing with computers, and thankfully my parents always supported my interest with electronics and would help
mhm,
me get what they could and allow me to play with things. But I remember back in the day, before the internet, you would get programming magazines, and they would have
mhm,
programs
mhm,
written in them. And some of my first programming was just copying those programs into the computer and saving them and trying to
mhm,
get them to work. And inevitably, there would always be a typo or two, or even they printed a typo into the program. So even if you did it, character by character, what was in the magazine, there was always something you had to debug, and it was always, at least I found it fun trying to figure out where the problem was or what I typed wrong and everything else. So I just kind of got hooked into programming. And when I was in school, in high school, I got a job making boxes using AutoCAD. So I had to
mhm,
use some of my programming skills to script out AutoCAD to create these different shapes that could then be folded
mhm,
together to either create, a box for a company to ship a product in, or a display for like a perfume for like Estee Lauder or something like that. We did all sorts
mhm,
of AutoCAD rendering of that sort of stuff, which kind of still kept me interested in programming and wanting to create cool things. And that was cool because I could actually create a prototype that was actually I could hold in my hands and
mhm,
see what I actually did and fold it together, glue it together, and show the customer. And it was a lot of fun. And I just really enjoyed building things and playing with the computer and seeing what it could do and how I could use it to help me save time. I think one of the first things I wrote on my own was a recipe database so my mom could keep her recipes together, and I wrote it in my Apple II, and she could load up the Apple II and pull up a recipe from a list and have it display, so she didn't have to go through her files of recipes and that sort of stuff. I have no idea where that code is. It's probably on a floppy somewhere in a desk that I don't even know. But yeah, it was. I just had
that's
fun. It always had fun playing
mhm.
with programs and electronics.
Oh, that's very interesting. What happens is somebody when they are sharing the story, okay, I feel like okay, inside me also I'll remember. Oh yeah, I did something similar to this. You
Hmm.
know, so yeah, I remember when I was in the diploma, one of my friend was a what you say, we call it a life insurance agent,
Hmm.
and he used to have all these transactions and all that he used to maintain in a diary. So I said, help me understand what you're doing. And then I created a program, then I said, you just have to now click next, next, and it's all done. So uh, those were the days when I started all this programming. I don't know whether he used it or not, but I developed it and gave it to him. I said, see, I have published it. Here's the application. Install this exe file. You're done.
Yeah,
So that way, I also did there. So
yeah.
before you came to Exact Target in 2003,
Hmm.
and before that, you were a web developer
Uh,
developing web tools.
yeah, web developer, kind of just general developer. I mean, I was doing
Mm,
Java, JavaScript, HTML, kind of the basic stuff. I was Java certified back in 2003.
mm,
I did some freelance work for Eli Lilly for a while. Didn't really enjoy working for that company, at least as a contractor. Full time employees were treated much better at the time. Contractors weren't treated all
mhm,
that well. So it just, went back to the Purdue Research Park and started working there. But yeah, unfortunately, that the funding just ran out there, and we just it was Valentine's Day of 2003. My boss said, "We'd love to keep you working here, but we can't pay anymore." I'm like, "Well, let me think about that for a second." No, and just just went out to kind of blow off some steam. Ran into my friend Jeff Hansen, and one thing led to another, and I came to Exact Target, which
So
my
Jeff,
it was
yeah, Jeff
interesting back there.
basically.
My first thing for Exact Target beyond writing code was actually going to Best Buy to get a keyboard because they didn't have a keyboard for me.
Hmm.
That's how small the company was back then. Where you had when you got hired, you had to go get your own hardware.
Oh my, yeah, that's the most interesting part. Uh, and you have seen the company grow, right?
Hmm.
The how it has now grown. So, and when you say you are the one of the person with the smart capture preview and all this one, so I definitely I'm going to go there in all this exact target. Okay, so you said Jeff, who basically brought you into exact target,
Yep.
right? Is Jeff still in exact target?
No, he left a few years ago.
Mm, okay. So, you people meet till
Yeah,
you
we
current.
were friends at Purdue. We both went to Purdue University, so we kind of
Mm.
just hung out together, and yeah, it just happened to work out at the same time, or work out at good timing.
So when he brought you to the exact target, okay,
Mhm.
were you aware like what the exact target is doing at that time?
Uh, I mean, it was different stuff. One of the things that
Mm.
I'd written for the Purdue Research Park was actually a mailing list program where it had kind of substitution fields, kind of like what you have in exact target emails, the
Mm.
percent substitution. So I'd written something similar in Java just for our own purposes, where the business manager could upload lists of teachers and create an email that would substitute their names and that sort of stuff. So I wrote all that in Java, and I think that was what got me the job. Is like, well, this is cool. He wrote something similar to what we're doing. Maybe we should hire him before he starts his own company to do it. So I was doing something similar, but it wasn't directly the product we were selling. It was just to help us get the word out about our product. So uh, yeah, it was interesting.
Mm.
It was fun. The Exact Target was definitely a better product.
So, uh, this question is striking me again and again. Okay, like when you see nowadays, you will see like a lot of people, they are so in. When if I don't, yeah, that's what you said. Like you are not much into this social media, especially the LinkedIn. But if you see people posting about marketing cloud, right? This is how you need to do this and all. What goes inside a man when you see those posts or blogs that some people have written there?
I mean, it makes me proud seeing that how many people are still using the stuff that I spent nearly 20 years writing. I will comment here and there if I can give tips, but um, it's just amazing just how huge the community is that uses it, and that there's certification exams, and there's a whole industry that supports just certifying people for the product that I wrote. I mean, it just if I really sit down and think about it, it blows my mind just how big and how many people are touching the stuff that I helped to write, and it's cool. It's a good feeling.
Okay. Okay. I'll be more specific there. Okay. So I'll tell you my experience. So I come from a .NET background. Okay. And w- and yeah, AMScript with is similar to handler.js, right? And now I'm used to those handler.js with because of AngularJS. Okay.
Hmm.
But I don't have the luxury to create libraries and all. I have to follow what exact target has given to me. Now I was trying to understand how the backend thing that is happening, how this basically this I understood this is a wrapper from the very beginning. I understood this is a wrapper. Okay,
For
now
SSS, you mean, or
AMP
well, yeah, everything in Marketing Cloud eventually gets turned into .NET. So
yeah,
every function is really backed by .NET functionality. It's just yeah,
yeah,
whether in SSJS or AMP script, it eventually gets run within .NET.
.NET, yeah. So uh, what happens is when I basically use try and catch block, okay,
Hmm.
with script SSJ script, okay, I used to because I wanted to handle that exception there.
Hmm.
Then when I understood, okay, what is happening behind, right? My excitement, I was more excited at that moment because I was able to understand what is happening behind. Okay. So when I that's what I'm trying to say is like my when I went to Greek because I learned from his blog many things in Marketing Cloud. So when I first created a blog with that try catch blog, and I was basically injecting exceptions.
Hmm.
Okay, my idea is to inject exceptions the much as I can catch it. I want to see what is happening. So
Hmm.
then my excitement level, it was more for me. I was able to okay because I am more of a debugger, like a troubleshooter and all. So then what I'm trying to say is, if you see somebody, somebody posting something with excitement, see, I found this one in exact target, you know. So you're like, yeah, sometimes you feel, buddy, this is what I did,
Hmm.
this is what I created. That do come to your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I when I was working for Salesforce, I would get customer emails, and I'd work with like Adam Spriggs and people like that, to help them solve their problems. I get the email, and when I could, I would try and help them. And I really did find customers were finding a lot of good stuff and finding some bugs, and I would try and handle those when I could. But yeah, I mean, it was always a balance when we were writing the scripting functionality between giving, good error messages back and trying to or exposing too much of our platform to the user and making errors that make sense to the user. There was a lot of
Mm,
gobbledygook that would kind of come out of errors, and there was a lot of focus on cleaning those up and making sure we're not, giving too much of our call stack to a customer so they could really figure out vulnerabilities within the marketing cloud. Not saying there are any, but any tech stack, there's going to be stuff that's going to be found as time goes on. But trying,
mm,
especially with Salesforce, there was a lot of protection about intellectual property and that sort of stuff. So um,
mm,
we would always get bugs if we would reveal too much information. So we were always trying to find that line between giving customer enough information so they could actually handle the problem themselves versus not giving them too much information about how our tech stack works that would just confuse them or make it muddy the waters for the problem they're trying to solve. So, exception handling was definitely one of the more challenging areas to work with our scripting technologies and getting good
mm.
errors back to the user. Because, yeah, I do agree that meaningful errors help the user understand what they're doing and how things are operating behind the scenes. But giving too much information can kind of uh, pull the curtain behind the man behind the scenes and give too much information that we don't want to give customers.
So yeah, I understand. Like I was working for one of the product based for a tool that was product based for an insurance company, and at that time I saw that how much they are so they don't want to expose everything, and even publishing the DLLs, they were very
Hmm.
very strict for with me. And I understood because the backend was all PL SQL, which I can say. Okay, so uh, uh, what I'm you're trying to understand here is like I'm just relating to my programming days, going back to my programming days. Okay, so giving back the error messages, like
Hmm.
when you have lot of wrappers, like where we call it as interface, and basically you are bubbling it the wrapper from the lower based, and uh, that was the most toughest part.
Yeah, really the key was the at the interface point between JavaScript and .NET, making sure
Mhm.
that the message got translated right and you were giving the right information and useful information. Like giving the customer back, the behind the scenes name of their database isn't going to be useful to them. That's for us when we're trying to debug the actual problem for the customer if there is a code problem. But
Mm.
just trying to find the right balance of information to give the customer so they can find it and not create a security headache for ourselves. Obviously, Salesforce and trust was very important, so not giving away too much information. I'm sure you've all everybody's been to a website that is having a problem and it just dumps way too much information on the screen, like connection
Mm.
string properties for their database and stuff, and you're like, huh, well, that's probably not good. We were really trying to avoid those sorts of situations, and while still allowing customers to get their job done and not try and burden support with questions that a customer could easily solve themselves if we gave them the right information.
Yeah, I understand that as well, which is logical in mind, because I remember even if you go to .NET also, anything I'm going to go back to .NET, though you are writing programming in C Sharp or C plus or C plus plus or which language you are writing, right? So that translation of, yeah, I understand. I have faced that issue. uh, we used to call that recycling dependency or something, when you used to push those messages here and there and logging those messages as well.
Yep.
So, and then now my mind is crossing with the dependency injection. So was that dependency injection also handled here in Exert Target?
Well, we always made sure when we introduced scripting technologies that someone couldn't inject stuff into our framework. That was always a huge test case, and security was always a big focus. One of the first things that I made sure was there when we put in SSJS was that customer data couldn't get intermixed in memory, and a customer couldn't use a variable of the same name and get someone else's data. There
Mm,
was a lot of attention uh, made to ensure that customer data was fully secured and that we weren't going to do that. And when we first put it in, there were some problems like that. We didn't release it to customers until we had found all that and had confidence that it was fully secure and couldn't expose that data. And we had a lot of protection in place to ensure that customers couldn't load assemblies that they weren't supposed to. And there was a huge amount of focus on security at that boundary between when it's translating the JavaScript into .NET runtime code.
mm.
So everybody can have pretty good confidence that there is no exploits there that can be easily done. Obviously, any scripting technology, someone can do something bad, put an infinite loop, and cause problems for the server. But in terms of security, we put a lot of work to make sure that that was going to be secure.
Yeah. With AmScript, maybe you have one advantage there, but with SSJS, okay,
Hmm.
if I go to ECMA, this has some dependency, right? So a lot of people are discussing why SSJS will support ECMA4 or not.
Yeah, that was always a key. I mean, it was always a desire to improve the version of ECMAScript that was used. It is an older version and obviously lacking some of the modern niceties. Um,
Mm,
but it was always a trade off. I know Guide when that came out, a lot of the momentum behind SSJS, at least for product development, kind of went away, where
mm,
Guide was kind of envisioned as the newer scripting technology that could solve a lot of the use cases that people were using SSJS. So they didn't want to devote as much development time into SSJS. Um, it was good enough, it supported the basic JavaScript functionality, and you could write functions and that sort of stuff, which you couldn't
mm.
do in AmpScript. Which that's why I prefer SSJS, because I like writing functions that can be reused
Yeah.
and not all this verbose line by line code that you have to kind of do in AmpScript. Um, but every time you come out with a new scripting technology, it's going to take away a little bit of the momentum from the previous ones. And um, yeah, it is kind of what it is. And I'm not sure what the future is for SSJS these days, since I've been out of the marketing cloud for a little under 2 years. But I still hope it
Mm,
it moves on. I still love SSJS, and I think it's super cool and super powerful. But yeah, some of those nicer things would have been nice to have. And that's kind of why I tried to put some of the newer functionalities, like the ability to parse JSON and that sort of stuff,
mm,
into the language. So I tried to put some niceties in there. But yeah, I agree, it would be nice to modernize it and keep it a little bit more uh like a Node.js or something like that, where it's more of a server side JavaScript
mm.
technology that has a little bit more power to it.
Yeah. Yeah, with AmScript, the only thing, yeah, I started with AmScript, obviously, which was easy to me. Then I became fascinated with SSJS because that's what I can create my own functions.
Hmm.
So I'm a person who wants to basically pass the parameters, okay, do the job the way I want, not what marketing cloud they already defined. So because based on the business use cases and all, I want to have that flexibility. So and I was able to with SSS and WS proxy. So this
Yep.
combination gave me a good mixture there. Uh,
WS proxy was
though
my creation too. That was something that I wasn't any product demand. It was just something I thought we needed because the core libraries where you have to do load or platform.load core,
Mm, mm,
those are not the most performant libraries, and especially working with the APIs. I tried to create something that was a little, similar in functionality, but a lot easier to use and a lot more performant. So, WS Proxy will perform at least twice as fast as any of those core SSJS libraries that you have to load.
yeah, yeah. I have, I have mixed feelings that's coming to me. Like when I say WS proxy and you're saying, okay, yeah, that's one of my creation. So now I'll say, oh my God, now what shall I say? So,
There actually is a REST proxy that I wrote before I left. I submitted the documentation. I'm not sure they actually launched it, but I think the code is still
so,
there. There is a REST proxy, and I tried to get it written. It would be similar to WS proxy, but for calling the REST APIs. It's there,
yeah,
I think.
it worked. It worked. Corina basically gave us that one.
Yeah, she was
And
my beta tester.
yeah, and when she posted it, okay, and Gina was like, "No, it's not Corina, it's her husband." So that then it was very interesting. I don't know how much other people have been interested with you. From that moment, I was like, I want to find you. So
Yeah, it was. I think it was either Connections or Dreamforce. I gave a talk or a workshop on WS Proxy at one point, and helped people kind of learn it, and that was pretty cool. I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed WS Proxy a lot. I think it's really cool and really powerful how it kind of translates JavaScript into SOAP API calls, kind of behind the scenes, and it doesn't make a physical SOAP call from our servers. It
mm,
just kind of
mm,
executes the code inline, but yeah, it was a huge performance boon, especially if you're working with huge data sets, trying to load that from like a data extension or even making uh, like a REST call using HTTP GET. The native
mm.
functions will be a lot faster than using the libraries or even AMP script.
Yeah, for everything, I'm just inside me. I don't know what I'll say, but something is oh, some feeling that is coming that oh yeah, I can bring more than 10, 15 things like people are discussing. Okay, like recently somebody was asking like how should I use a filter with date function with a date attribute in SSS. It was little for them. It becomes little difficult because the mixer of pure JavaScript and the date add function that you have added in the library, there people gets little confusing there. Okay, so for me, WS proxy, why I like the most is because that has basically uh, changed my management perspective towards me. Because I'm using the objects
Hmm.
with that WS proxy. So I am that's what I said. I'm a programmer, so I love doing all these things. Right? Not only the out of the box, but I want to invent do something out that is given. When I went to that objects and I saw this, I said, "Oh, okay. Now, for me, you
Yeah,
and then the credit goes to you that you have helped me a lot."
it was a lot easier than using the platform.function create
Mm.
create object to create the WS or web service
Oh,
object and everything else. That was so verbose, and every time I'd see it, I would just die a little bit inside. So I just had to
uh,
do something better.
yeah. When I was giving this AMP script enablement to my mentees, where I used to conduct a Saturday session and help them with AMP script. Obviously, there are a lot of boot scam and all where people help understand the tool. But for me, is I'm a programmer, so I started with AMP script enablement.
Mhm.
And at the last moment, I was with the proxy only. I was trying to. Then every time I have to write create object, create. I don't. I don't want to do that. So I said, though I spend more than 3 hours, I said, no, I want to sort this off.
Yeah.
It's too much headache for me
Yeah.
to create every object, and I don't want to create those variables in memories.
Yeah.
Just because I am a person with a scope, just the scope should be limited to that function, and let it gets released.
Yep.
So
Plus, the less code you have for the interpreter to go through, the faster your sends are going to be, the faster your landing pages are going to render. If you have a lot of verbose AMP script or SSJS in there, it's going to take time to parse it and process it. It's just a fact of life. You can't get around it. The more code you have for it to interpret, it's going to take longer to process. So if you can simplify
uh,
what the interpreter has to go through to execute your code, it's going to save you time. It's going to help your customers get pages to load faster. It's going to help them get you more emails into the inbox faster, and everyone's better. Everyone's happy.
uh, so okay, obviously, whatever is coming, see, this is what I do in a conversation. Something has just hit me here,
Mhm.
and I don't follow, and I don't have anything for you because you are. I don't see much. I believe you should little bit of you have to expose yourself a little bit. You
Well,
should not be.
I was at Salesforce for 18 years, so I didn't need a lot of exposure. I just kind of did what I needed to do and tried to create cool stuff. So I kind of kept a low profile, and yeah, I didn't try and steal a lot of the spotlight, but I was behind the scenes creating a lot of the stuff the customers were using.
No, I understand. Like the internal team and those people who are very old in the exact target days, like say even people like Greek or Adam who are exploring from the start,
Hmm.
they might know you. Okay, but for me, it took me 6 years to know you. So we also want to know you. So that's our request, that you should little bit of we should know, then at least sometimes we can ping you directly saying, Mark, I am having a issue, please.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you'll like my support rate, but no, I'm just kidding. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm very fond of in Marketing Cloud that I'm happy to help out with. The CMS system, content builder, that system design was my design. Yeah, a lot of cool pieces. I did a lot of work making things perform. As a lot of people know, the Marketing Cloud has a very seasonal burst around Black Friday and the holidays, where send volume goes up because there's a lot of retail customers who need to get a lot of Black Friday deals out. So before the holidays, there's usually a big pinch to make sure that the Marketing Cloud is prepared for that surge and that all the products are going to scale to the levels that we think our customers are going to need. So I was involved in a lot of the making sure that the behind the scenes stuff would work, to make sure that all of the stats generated from emails or landing pages would get processed in a timely manner. So optimizing the stats collection was something I'm also proud of. Uh, there were times historically where stats would get backed up, people would click, and the customers wouldn't see the data for a couple hours because things were stuck in the
Mm.
system. I've made a lot of improvements to help those stats flow through closer to real time and get processed without having problems. I wrote or designed the system that allows people to move stacks. The cross stack movement functionality where people could move once we created the European data centers and we had our code running there. Um, the European customers that were in the US wanted to move so they could be in Europe and kind of have data locality. So created the system that would help customers move between our different stacks, so they could actually move from our US region to our European region with minimal downtime. Um, so a lot of cool things
No,
behind the scenes, not just stuff that customers use, but there's
no,
18 years at a
eh,
company, you build some stuff.
yeah. See, every conversation that is happening is very interesting for me. And now when I'm listening to this load balancing, that what you're saying with the stacks, okay. Uh, but one thing that is coming to my mind is when you say the American stack is basically being load
Well,
balance with the European stack. Okay,
not really load
but
balanced. I mean, there's several stacks in the U.S. that are all kind of they all have redundancy and resiliency built in, but there are different geo regions. So there's a U.S. region and there's a European region, and data due to European data regulations, European data should not be in the U.S. and data should not be processed in the U.S. if it's European data. So we had to move customers from get their data out of the U.S. data centers, customers that were there before we actually had the European data center. If we obviously were going to be implementing a European customer once that data center was up, they would just go there and they wouldn't have to move. But allowing a customer to move their data from the U.S. to the EU was pretty cool, and allowing customers to actually get into the European data center once we had it stood up was cool.
okay. Uh, yeah, so you understood the question before. Okay, I was iterating that. Okay, so tell me one thing. So again, I'll go there. Okay, so you have the Canada privacy one, right?
Mhm.
Where the data center they don't want that to be added to the US data centers, right? Now, uh, how marketing cloud basically, let's say, if I'm executing for a Canada market, okay, the data center resides in US, but if they want to reside, then obviously you are doing some encryption.
Mhm.
Okay, so AWS comes into play with the encryption. I understand that. Okay, now uh, you are doing a relay to the SMTP when you're sending an email from Canada to the US data center.
Well, the cloud stuff is a little bit different. Obviously, when you're working with cloud, you can spin up an AWS instance kind of wherever wherever you need it. And as far as I know, all of those cloud instances are all localized within that geo region. So you're not going to be crossing
Mhm.
boundaries. If your AWS is hosted in Canada, you're going to be using Canadian services for the most part. Um, Again, I wasn't there when they launched that stuff, so I don't know what the final implementation looks like for how mail gets relayed out
Mhm.
of the cloud. But yeah, I know that there was always a focus to keep things as local as possible. So every attempt is going to be made to keep it within your geo region as much as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. My interest is there to understand the relay, how the relay is happening. But okay, since you said I'll not ask you their question. So let's go back to see. This is totally. I'm loving it. Again, I'm saying I'm loving it because this totally becoming a technical question, technical discussion, not a question, technical discussion. So you said this substitution, okay? That you are doing for JavaScript.
Hmm.
Hmm. Now we call it as personalization string in AMP script,
Hmm.
right? Uh, this happens with the AMP script, but why with not SSJS?
There's substitutions that you can do. There's the var tag that you
Wow.
can put in that is
Yeah.
works with SSJS and everything else. So there are ways to do it. It's just a little bit different. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
one more line you got to put in there to do like a write, or you use the var tag within SSJS, so you can still get it. But
Yeah. Yeah. That right becomes a function. Okay. Now where becomes a, though I understand the control variable that is right,
mhm.
but this percentage is not a variable, you know. So it's more of a placeholder. So similarly, people has to accustom to this var as a control variable. But my question was why percentage was not incorporated into SSS.
Well, I mean, it's not really AmpScript either. The That
Mhm.
substitution format isn't AmpScript or SSJS. That's just the native replacement functionality within the mail engine. So,
Okay.
I mean, that will still work whether it's an SSJS variable, an AmpScript variable. You can still load that data using the v tag and substituting it out. So I mean, it's kind of hard to say why we didn't implement it because it wasn't really part of AmpScript either. It was just part of the native
Mhm.
engine and just part of rendering.
So if okay, so I'm trying to understand here. Okay, so if this is a native function for OMM, that's what you're saying,
Hmm.
right? So if this is a native function for OMM, then I can still use this percentage into JavaScript SJS and can execute it.
Yeah, I mean, you can pass variables between AmpScript, SSJS, or write them out using that tag. It's been a while
Okay,
since I've done it, but yeah, you should be able to.
okay. Let me again try this. Okay, so I have this percentage, and I have a v, right? V is of now I consider this v is a function, and
Hmm.
inside the v function, I'm passing a parameter, right? That parameter I have still now have seen that has to be a AMScript variable. It not should
Well,
be a JavaScript variable.
you can use the get value function to cross that boundary and get it from JavaScript.
Oh yeah, to translate it to anyway, I'm ultimately translating into AMScript variable. Then only it's getting executed. My right. That's my first question was. We are not able to use this personalization string with AMScript variable. So sorry, SSJS variable. I have to basically translate it to AMScript variable. Then only it will be executed. But yeah, since you said this is a native function for AMM, but actually it's somehow has a library that is being driven by the AMP script.
Yeah, it SSJS requires you to be a little bit more explicit about what variables you actually want to do it. Obviously, when you're dealing with AmpScript, you don't have to worry about function scope and everything else and exposing
Mm,
your variable outside of it. Just whatever the variable is named at the time can get written out. You just have to be a little bit
yeah.
more explicit in SSJS that you want this to be something that can get written out to the
Mm,
to the rendering engine.
okay, you're
Kind
talking
of
about
call
the
it a
scope.
safety function because you could have variables named the same between AmpScript and SSJS, and since
Mm,
AmpScript was there first, anytime we'd implement new stuff within Marketing Cloud, we'd always make sure that the old stuff wasn't affected by the new stuff we were doing, and
mm,
backwards compatibility was a huge thing. Um, Especially working with scripting technologies, you don't want to break a function that's been in use for like 4 years within AmpScript or SSJS. So we were always very careful about backwards compatibility, which is why we would put business rules or feature flags behind some of the flags, so new customers could get the fixes right away. And if a customer was sure that their stuff would work, we could flip it on, and then they could get fixes that way. And it was kind of a rollout mechanism for some of the stuff that we deemed was a little bit more dangerous,
yeah.
that could affect code that was out there in the wild. We didn't want to, mass change something that would affect, thousands of customers all at once. We wanted people to be able to opt into it, or, uh, make sure that their code was up to snuff before we flipped the flag for them. And that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
why we didn't expose the variables is around that way. We didn't want someone to write something in JavaScript that would accidentally override an AmpScript variable that would get written out because they were playing in JavaScript. And when you mix scripting technologies, variable naming gets interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. Because in a shortcut, it is basically you're defining the variable scope,
Mhm.
right? So in AMP the variable scope becomes the global scope,
Yep.
right? Now in JavaScript, it is becoming a local scope defined with that function inside the function, right?
Mhm.
So here the scope is playing into coming into play. Okay, so but yeah, sometimes what I see is that's my feeling. Okay, even for that AMScript variable, okay, the scope has should is I don't know if that was possible, but the scope has should be defined, because what happens is the new people basically who are very new to programming, okay, let's say you have three different blocks of AMScript. Okay, in the first block they said at the rate first name, okay, and they assigned a value. In the second block they go and give another name. They think that okay, once that is because it's a more of a translator, it's
Mhm.
done. Okay, but sometimes what happens is once you just since a translator is running one line by line, so the normal understanding is okay, first is translated, it is printed, second one is translated, printed, because it comes with the email marketing, right? But if you go with the programming where you are designing a long use case, okay, sometimes what happens is since the scope is global, okay, it gets overridden. And though you're expecting the third value, it will sorry, the first value, it will return you the third value because it's already overridden because of the scope.
Mhm.
So at that moment I feel like uh, there should be some mechanism to handle the scope as well.
Yeah. Certainly would be cool to expand on that, but I don't have any control over that anymore. These sort of customer requests were what I would build features off of sometimes if I had some extra time. Salesforce used to have something called pay time on, where you get paid for kind of doing work that wasn't necessarily what you were assigned to do, just exploratory work, and that I would leverage that and sometimes take these customer requests and put in stuff like that within the engine. But yeah, I do agree that having an easier way to write out variables certainly would be useful for SSJS. But
Yeah. So if you see, I'm asking all this question is because whatever that is bubbling inside me, okay, because when I come to know, okay, preview smart, I'm noting all this down. Okay, now this curiosity, what I have inside, I'm getting that connection where I can spell it out.
I like
Otherwise,
curiosity.
yeah, otherwise I basically, if you see me, I also maintain, I don't try to say all these things in public. I don't say because a lot of people don't even understand what I'm saying. Even if I go to pristine and dirty with the JavaScript, then they will be like, oh, Sasi, what he's talking, so I don't try to say that. So okay, maybe I don't want to make that too technical. uh, but
It's your interview.
because Be- because what should I do? I found someone whom I can, whatever I have, I like to ask all these technical questions. So I'm trying to limit there. But yeah, anyway, mm, I was going through your about, okay, and then in your about, you have mentioned that I have walked from UI to microservices, SQL to no SQL data.
Hmm.
Okay, so first, let's start with the UI to the microservices. Did you like UI the most or the microservices?
I mean, I used to really like building UI. I'm not so much these days. I'm more into the back end and building services, APIs, and that sort of stuff these days. I kind of got out of building client side JS and with all of the different TypeScript and different ways of doing it. I just haven't really been as in depth in that world as I have been kind of the services, underlying infrastructure, and that sort of stuff. Especially as I became an architect, I got more into designing systems and processes than I did, designing specific UI elements and that sort of stuff. So I kind of, you know, lost all of my my client side library knowledge. I'm still capable of doing it. It's just not really where I find my passion. I really like building high transactional systems now. APIs that do cool things and backend systems is really where I find it. I still consider myself, a full stack engineer, but I tend to be more back end oriented these days.
Mhm.
Data tiers,
Uh,
services, that sort of stuff.
yeah. But my inclination is still, I sometimes try to see is like building my own library, JavaScript libraries. You know, and that was one of my questions that was thinking like, would you expose the core library and the platform library to us so that I can add more functions to it?
That actually is functionality that's there that they just never released. There is a way for customers to have their own libraries in the Marketing Cloud that
Mhm.
could be loaded. That functionality is completely there. Customers could upload their own stuff. They just never wrote the mechanism for customers to write it. But if we put it in the database, it can be served up, and that functionality is there. It just was never leveraged or um, never really taken advantage of. Fun fact: SSJS kind of came about because we had a client back in the day that wanted to create kind of their own app built on our own technology. So SSJS was before there was Kubernetes and everything else. We envisioned this way for customers to write packages that could be deployed kind of like the app exchange for Salesforce. People could write
Mhm.
these applications in SHS, bundle them up, sign them, deploy them into the store, and create all this new stuff. So that's why we created SHS in the first place, was this real easy way for customers to use language they're familiar with to write applications. Um, but then they kind of scrapped that and went with the Salesforce App Exchange after we were acquired. So we didn't have the need to create, have customers create bundles within the Marketing Cloud when we had App Exchange. they could get used, but a lot of that functionality was still built. So the ability to create a library that was in use or scoped to just your application or just a single customer that could be loaded and reused across that customer. All that functionality was built and unfortunately just never launched.
Thank you. I am going to. Okay, I don't
Same
want to
goes
say
for
anything.
AmpScript. There can be custom AmpScript libraries per customer. That functionality is there as well. So there is a way for customers to have custom libraries, but just never was marketed or sold as a SKU.
You make me smile. You know what you have given to me. uh, Maybe if I want to see, okay, I don't want to divulge there. Okay, anyway, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy because I love building libraries.
I wish that I could give you like a backdoor way to get that in there, but unfortunately, they never exposed publicly anything to actually do that functionality. It would all have to be behind the scenes type stuff, and you'd need an inside man to help you get it done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, is obviously they have to basically uh, obviously it's a product, so I understand that. But giving some leverage, if there is some scope to it, then is a better thing, right? Uh,
Yeah. The fun fact, the container app, the MC container app that you log into and you drill down into all the other apps, that was actually all written in SSJS and was
mm,
one of those apps that we designed or have wanted our customers to build. It was one of those that was written in SSJS and deployed onto our kind of early Kubernetes type platform.
mm,
So yeah,
yeah.
Working Cloud actually ran on SSJS for quite a while. Not sure it still does. It's it'd been out for a year and a half, but they were working on porting that to an actual Node.js app when I left. I'm not sure if it actually finished or
Oh.
not.
No, it's still there. If you ask me, then I'll tell you. Even the data layer. Okay.
Still get some
Yeah.
SSJS errors every once in a while, huh?
Yeah, I was, we were basically, I'll not say we, yeah, but uh, I love looking at the layers, which all layers you have there. So, yeah, like you said, like the way you keep your low profile, I try to. I don't want because what happens is for me is like if I try to say those those things, majority of them will be like I'm like some alien talking something else. So I don't try to neither I talk about scope, neither I talk. So it's only with you first time in for marketing cloud I'm discussing all this. So. Uh, I was asking to you was about regarding SQL and NoSQL data.
Hmm.
Okay, so so for everyone, let's make it a little lucid here. So when you say SQL and NoSQL data, if you can just explain to everyone so that they understand what is SQL and NoSQL data.
Yeah. SQL data is like a SQL Server or relational database where data has a very rigid structure and tables and um, data can be related to each other using constraints and that sort of stuff. A NoSQL database is more. There's various flavors of it, but it's more unstructured data, and uh, a lot of them are key value stores. So it's very very simple in structure. But usually they're a lot faster if you're doing simple data retrieval operations because it doesn't take as much computation and to get across all of your data.
Yeah. So uh, normally it's like if you're doing SQL, then it's more of a relationship database where you have to have a lot of primary and foreign key relationship,
Mhm,
and you have to do a lot of join operations, right?
mhm,
But when you do NoSQL data, it means more of a flat file kind of like a JSON or a flat file structure,
mhm.
right? So obviously, we have slowly inclined towards a NoSQL data, where we look into the processing and right. So we try to handle the data structure in the UI rather than in the database, right? So uh, with this one that is coming CDP and the Genie and
Mhm.
all, right? So they are also trying to say the no skill data only. Isn't right? So data lakes and all.
Yeah, that's the intent.
Uh, yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I don't know. Again and again, I want to go to somewhere else, but my inclination with you is again going towards this technical side. Okay. Okay. Let me shift my position. Yeah. So uh, you were a technical architect in Extra Target,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And Corina there, she was the release manager,
At one point, yep. That's
right?
how we met.
So uh, how how this romance between a technical architect and a release manager started there.
Well, when she started, she was doing rotations through different departments, so we weren't like working directly together. But we ran into each other at the help desk. She was getting some work done on her laptop, and I was getting a new keyboard or something. And that I think that was the first time we actually talked to each other and met was in the at the help desk. So, uh, we dated for a while, and actually, I think the first person who called us out was Scott McCorkle. We were out at a out at a bar, I think, and having some fun with a bunch of coworkers. And he's like, "So how long have you two been public?" Like, kind of haven't been. Didn't know you noticed. So that was a little bit awkward, but yeah, it was fun. We didn't like necessarily work directly together. Besides her just checking on status of work every once in a while when she was the release manager, but it was yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. So, did you like once you started interacting with her, did you find that she is also quite technical in nature?
Oh yeah, yeah, she was amazing. I mean, she when she was the release manager, she was writing SQL queries to get
Mm,
information out of Jira that we couldn't get just through the interface. So
mm.
I knew she had the technical chops, and she was good at what she
Mm.
was doing. And yeah, she's amazing, and she's still doing amazing stuff at NBCU.
Yeah. And yeah, I see Koina Gina being technical. Okay, though they try to be obviously little. Uh, Corina, yeah, I've seen Gina mostly on the how to SFMC, how she answers there. Okay, and what I've seen is, yeah, technical people, but they don't try to show themselves as a technical person, which I like the most actually. Okay, and now. When you meet Corina, okay, and she's technical, and she termed you also like one of the most technical and the smart person in the exact target. Okay, so uh, you know, uh, there's some affinity that happens, which I feel. A technical person, recognize the other technical person.
Hmm.
Okay, like when we are doing a conversation or others also. Okay, uh, having a conversation with a very technical person, that happens one affinity. I can ask any questions that I have inside my mind,
Hmm.
right? So uh, you whenever you found Corina doing some technical things, okay, and you know that you have much better way to do implement it, okay, how do you approach her?
Um, Well, I mean, I sometimes wait for her to reach out because, there's still knowledge you get by, figuring things out on your own. So
Mhm.
if there's frustration there, I try to help figure things out. Sometimes, there's just different ways of doing things that someone hasn't been exposed to, and you just gotta show a different way. But yeah, just help out where you can, but don't try and overstep. Let
Mm,
anytime you want to mentor someone or let someone learn, you gotta, you learn a lot more from sometimes making mistakes than you do from doing it right the first
mm,
time. So sometimes just, let people reach their own conclusions and help them out. And it's what I do. And if she's having some trouble, I try and stay out of it. And if she wants some help, I'll give her some help. But you know, don't
this is true. Yeah, I
don't
have
push it.
realized. Yeah, nowadays I have realized this. Initially, I'm more of a, yeah, very indulgent. People call me very indulgent guy. And even in a team, or be it even in a mentee or anyone, like if I see they are doing wrong, I'll stop them there only. Say, no, 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 stop there. Do this way. Okay. But now I have realized, let them learn their self. If they
Mhm.
come back, if they ask me, going to give them answer. But that also becomes a different answer, not a direct, straightforward answer. We're saying, okay, use this. It's going to solve. I'm not going to do this nowadays. I
Yeah.
just give them small, small hints,
Yep.
so they learn
Sometimes
by
just
themselves.
asking the right question can go a long way to unwinding things in someone's head. Just like, have you thought about this aspect? Like, oh my god, I
Mm.
didn't. Then things just fall into place. So yeah, sometimes just the right suggestion or just the right question at the right time can be a big help.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah, in the trade, initially I saw a lot of people giving ready-made answers. Okay, nowadays I don't give the ready-made answer. I simply say, "Have you tried this? Do
Hmm.
you try this?" I just counter question them. And that's what I do nowadays.
It is a good approach.
Yeah, yeah, because I have realized that, because if you give a ready-made answer, also what happens is, actually I'm not that known person in SFMC. I just became active for since October or all, because I'm little sensitive. And what I've seen is, I'm very orthodox in the way, like I don't want people, if I see somebody doing wrong, I'm like, I want to go and expose it. So then I came, and then I said, like, okay, I'm going to bring interesting people. Okay, let them hear their journey, let them hear their story, and let them understand. It takes a lot of hard work to basically, there's no shortcut. So
Yeah.
that's what's my understanding of, bringing people, and let people know. So let people understand there are very good people there, still there.
Mhm.
Not everybody is the same.
Yeah.
So you might have to wear spectacles sometimes, right, to find out the right person.
Yeah.
So that was my thought process. So, and I'm lucky enough that I was able to, somehow, like, I first started with Cameron. Cameron gave the name of Gina, though I knew Gina, but I didn't knew, okay, her background. But
Hmm.
Cameron gave a little thought into it, and then I approached Gina. She came. Gina gave me the name for Corina. Right now, I have, yeah. So Corina has to basically give me the edit now, and I have to publish. And mm, then yeah, I knew with that Christmas scripts where uh, Corina basically gave that REST proxy. Okay,
Hmm.
so from there, your name, I was basically trying to. I'm little shy directly going to people and asking, but I want little hint from someone. So that's why then when Gina was open and she was so good that she said to him, I said, yeah, that's what I wanted,
Yeah.
So
She's amazing. She's good at what she does for sure.
yeah, I have to. Yeah, when I publish, I have openly said it. You know, when you have a partner like Corina, okay, she'll make sure you'll be happy there. That is one part of the story that what I say. For you, I have said about you as well. That's my, but I'm going to bring it here now. Okay. So, uh, yeah, I love a lot of things. I study a lot of things. So, she was like, one interesting fact. What you're saying is, you detail her a lot of things. You give, if you have to explain her, you are very good in detailing. And for me, what my understanding is, boys do not detail that much. Men, if I say not boys, as a men, okay. What I've listened to Tony Robbins, he says, men are not specific to detailing things, but you detail. How is that?
Hmm. I'm not sure. That's an interesting observation. I just try and give as much information as I can. I've got a lot of information in my head that I like to share. I, Sometimes it comes out too much, maybe. But I don't try and just do superficial answers. I try and give as much explanation as to the why I'm giving an answer and that sort of stuff. So if it seems like that, I'm giving a lot of detail, it's just I'm trying to be thorough and trying to expand knowledge as much as I can.
So you have a very good focus. That what I can say. Let's say uh, if I give you a situation, okay, let's say you're going for a walk, okay, and then suddenly something attracts you. Let's say a very beautiful house, for example, okay. So you capture all the details, okay, how the window style is done, how the uh, flooring is done, how the tiles and marbles has been structured, and that you capture it so wisely. How that happens? Normally, what I've listened and is like boys do not care about all these things. Again, I'm saying boys. It's not boys. It's men. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it's yeah.
I mean, I've just always had an attention to detail. I grew up being an artist. I went to art school in my spare time to learn how to paint and that sort of stuff. My mother was always an artist, so we were always just trying to find little details and things and noticing just things that maybe other people at a superficial glance wouldn't. So I've just always been looking into things at a more deeper level than just accepting something as it is. I've always wanted to know how things work. When I was a kid, I take things apart and put them back together just so they know. I mean, just seeing something on the surface isn't seeing the whole picture. There's always, even with people, there's a lot more behind the scenes than what they present. So with people things, you can always learn a lot more by going below the surface and figuring out more than what's initially presented.
Yeah, you said that artistic mind. Okay, maybe yeah, that can correlate. Okay, because okay, if I go, I don't want to go there. Yes, even our brain, right? It's divided in two parts where people say right brain and the left brain. Okay, so somebody said like the left brain are the logical, the logical
Hmm.
mind. That is, right brain is more of a rational mind. So logical mind and the rational mind works differently. And
Hmm.
if I go deeper, then if I have to go with prefrontal cortex, okay. So what you're perceiving, what you're seeing, okay, if you have seen that in your reality, because our brain is not logical,
Hmm.
okay. Like if you see a dream in a dream, okay, if you're falling from a say a 10th floor, you'll feel the same feeling if you're doing in the reality also, and our brain can't understand whether that is a dream or a reality. Okay, so okay, maybe I'm going in a different area.
No,
So
I minored in psychology at Purdue, so I a little bit, how the brain works is also something that I've always been interested in. So yeah, this line of thought is not very out of my comfort zone for sure.
yeah, so brain cognitive function is a very interesting one. And if you're able to understand your brain cognitive function, a lot of things basically in your life will make a lot of things easier.
Hmm.
What I've understood, okay, because I know I can trick my brain actually. What actually does the person is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talks about neuroplasticity. Okay, so it's more of a how your brain and the body though is connected with the neural network, but
Hmm.
the brain, okay, and where we call the brain as a master, actually the body is the master. So if I go there, it will be a different topic, I don't know.
Getting out of computer programming here.
Yeah, yeah, I study a lot of books, I follow, and I that's what I said, I love deep diving there. So that happens, okay.
Yeah.
So mm, actually what happens is there was some connection there, okay, where if I'm right or wrong, I want to say. She said you're basically, if I have to dig down into your inheritance there, okay, if I with a technical one. So you come from you have some you have listened to some stories in your past, right?
Yeah.
So if you can say something about that, like maybe you didn't. You just listen. You have that stories that you have listened from your grandmother or your mother.
Hmm. Uh, about which? Sorry, about what topic exactly? Just about learning,
Oh,
or
sorry.
back to how people learn, or what?
No, it was like Holoctus.
I mean, my mother was very artistic, so she got me into art and kind of thinking outside the box. I think naturally I was always very technical, so she kept me grounded on the more artistic sides, and I think having that balance kind of in between different worlds, I think helps someone deal with a lot of different situations. I wouldn't consider myself right brained or left brained. I consider myself fairly split brained. So uh,
Mhm,
I think that it helps me relate to a lot of different personality types, and
mhm,
teaching people different ways. And as you said, people learn in different ways. Some people are more visual, some people are more hands on. But being able to adapt to different learning methodologies, and uh, yeah, I think that my childhood helped me kind of adapt into that situation.
mhm. Yeah. See, uh, in India, okay, uh, India is one of a country where uh, we have seen a lot of things, not in the similar fashion, but in a different fashion. Okay, where we were colonized for more than 800 years. Okay, we were invaded a lot of times, and basically even when the Poland things there where it was happening, a lot
Hmm.
of people from Poland came to India as a refuge. Okay, still they have that. Even in Poland they still have a symbolic reference with India. Okay,
Hmm.
and even yeah, a lot of Jews and Parsis and all people are there in India. So we come from where we have learned everything. We have listened, we have seen, right? So sometimes in India there was a quote that the Britishers used to run: no Indians or the dogs are entered to enter the restaurants and all that. You'll see if you have to go back in history there. Okay,
Yep.
so but now India is ruling. Be it any CEO. Okay, now the UK Prime Minister is the Indian. Okay,
Hmm.
the US Vice President is actually the Indian origin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making a bigger presence in the world these days, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, we have. That's what you said. Like we come, learn, and we basically integrate, and that's the way India is.
Hmm.
So we understand everything very well, right? So though people might see in a different perspective, but India has a different perspective of art. Maybe the people who settled in the Western world, they might have some little difference. Okay, but I say proudly, I'm an Indian, and I know what I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to keep your unique aspects, and obviously those unique aspects make the country succeed, and obviously do well all around the world. That zest and wanting to learn and just take on knowledge that will help anyone for sure.
Yeah, obviously it is always good to learn and basically help the world. But yeah, I see. I am a more if you talk me about any subject, okay, I love going into that subject. I've read all the subjects. Okay, if you go to NASA also, I'll tell you even inside NASA. Okay, when the even that moon landing or something that's happening. Okay, who was the chief person there? I know that person, and who that person is, I still. So I don't want to make it uncomfortable if you want, but I can say it openly. Okay, just giving an example, there was a person with the cut mark in his face. Mhm.
Um,
So those people are still there. Okay, and the people don't talk about it. But I have even go deeper into saying in Argentina there is a full flayed of those people.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you just never know how a culture is gonna help out. That's for sure.
No, capitalism and lot of liberalization that they talk about in US, but Do they exactly know about their own history? That's my question is. So,
I mean, I think there's a lot of variance. Some people are more into history and learning, how people got where they were than others. That's kind of the nice thing about life is, people are interested in different things. Some people are, some people aren't. I certainly hope that people would learn about history and learn from it. I did a lot of studying history when I was at university, and I find that it's very useful. There's the old saying, if you fail to learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Um, so there's a lot of good
mm,
information about learning about cultures, how cultures came together, learn from each other. One of my passions outside of programming is food, and just how cultures have influenced foods all around the world and created interesting dishes. If you go to like the island nations in the Caribbean, that are all these melting pots of different cuisine cultures that create something new. Look at like Creole cuisine and like New Orleans and that area, that are like French and African immigrant influences. All these cultures can influence each other and come up with something better than what they would have been apart. And I think that's one of the cool things about just how the world evolves. It's as people come together and share their knowledge, you come up with better things than you would have individually. And
so
uh,
are you saying that the US is open to cultures, different cultures?
I think that's a generalization. I think it depends. Even outside of the U.S., I mean, any country, there's going to be people who are for it and against it. And even when you ask is going to influence that, because geopolitical things change by the minute. Where sentiments for could be good one moment, they might be bad because of something that happened that not even related to
No,
something. But
but that sentiment is derived by the narrative of the news agencies. Okay, with the inclination towards some political parties. Okay, but if you open the history, and if you start, if they open up the history and make a proper study of the history, then the sentiments change will not happen based on certain geopolitical factor. It has to be basically, if you have to open up with the culture and diversity of other people. So that is what my suggestions that happens. If I give you a lighter note, then that what happens, especially in America, they say, if you say glasses, they have to say eyeglasses, then they understand this is eyeglass. If I say glass, they not understand. If I give you this eyeglass, they will say, should I put it here? Should I? This is what even in Instagram and others, that there are people are much better explaining. You have to say
mhm,
eyeglasses to them to be very specific.
yeah,
Hmm? But for me, eyeglasses is glasses is glasses. I know I have to put it
yeah,
on my face.
need some
Right?
context to understand it properly.
Yeah. So that was in a lighter note anyway. Uh, so tell me one thing. Okay. What is the best compliment that you have received from Corina till now?
Um, I mean, I always like it when she appreciates the work that I do.
Mhm.
I, there's so many to choose from. It's really hard to pick, but I mean, I get a lot of satisfaction when she and
Mhm.
you know that she uses the software that I wrote is cool in itself. But when she appreciates something that I wrote, and thanks me for writing it, that it makes her job easier. Not just her, but any other customer. I enjoy that. The biggest compliment is just that I did a lot at Exact Target, and I'm very proud of what I did, and I think she's proud of what I built there too, and that makes me happy.
She is the what I've understood with Corina is she's a very fun-loving person. She always like having fun and enjoying, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, and she told me even this, like, if you want to bring me into a conversation, or even less, if you want to plan for a meetup somewhere, you have to basically buy me a food, and I'm a foodie person, you know.
We we do like to cook and eat here.
Yeah, and yeah, she said she loves ice cream a lot.
That is for sure.
Yeah,
That
and
that is probably an understatement.
So, she's a fun, open, very open. And she's very blunt. Do you feel that,
Yeah,
right?
that that's one of the things I'm attracted about her is that she doesn't take anyone's BS for sure.
Yeah. So, when she's blunt, right? Sometimes you say, no, no, no. Let maybe you sometimes have to don't say it in the face. Let it be. Let it go. Let it go. Do they happen in a conversation?
Well, I think that that happens with anyone. Sometimes you just have to let things go.
Mm.
Kind of got to go with the greater good.
So, I'm not a person that I let go easily. If somebody is actually, that doing some bullshit thing, I'm open. I'm not going to beat anyone. So I'm like, this is Sasi. Come on, So, uh, uh, do that happen with the coin also? No, I'm going to speak. I'm not going to let it go.
I mean, her and I tend to think alike more than we think disalike. So I'm not really sure that there's all that heated conflicts, or I'm not sure what you're
Yeah.
looking for here. But we don't.
Oh, oh no,
I
no.
mean, we
Okay. So,
we
no,
get
no,
along
no.
pretty well.
Oh no, no, not between you and Corina. I'm saying like say, it's not between you and Corina. Okay, it's like say she is in a meeting. Okay, and now she's a open person. She's a blunt person that she will say, no, you have to do. So sometimes the other end you are listening to her conversation. Say you'll say, Corina, let it be. Don't no, don't push now. Sometimes that happen. For me, like my sister or my somebody, my brother, if they listen to my conversation, they say, Sasi, sometimes you have to cool down, let it go. They will try to tell me this. So that's what
Hmm.
I'm saying. It that happens with Corina. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I think that happens with anyone. Anyone who gets passionate about what they're doing. Sometimes you just have to take a step back, and yeah, I
Mm,
mean, people get passionate. That's kind of what you look for. You don't want someone who's just going to be like, meh, whatever. You want passion, and I consider that a good thing. That someone's passionate about something and will defend it or defend their stance. But I
mm,
mean,
ah,
you just have to if you disagree, if you have a valid reason, you just have to explain and you know
mm.
come together. That's what collaboration's about.
Yeah. So yeah, let me just so that it does not taken in another way. If so I'll tell you the recent example in today in LinkedIn. Okay. In somebody posted a video. I don't know what video was that. I don't go to the video, but there is a company. He was working for some kind company and something was happening there. Okay. And then he had posted a video. I said, if this is something wrong, then you should basically report to a police rather than coming to a LinkedIn and posting it.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was saying to that person who had posted it. Okay. And there were few people, they said, then, no, sir, say, listen to his video. He's saying that the company this and that. Okay. And I said, and he even somebody went to say that the police didn't register the complaint. So I said, okay, if police does not register, you can go to the district magistrate and register complaint. Okay. And even I included the our one of our minister and said FOI. Let me I'm yeah, I have that tendency of doing, I love doing these things.
Hmm.
So then the company came, I have seen there are a lot of people who have commented, but the company came and replied to me saying that no, this person has done something wrong. I said, I'm not here supporting or encouraging, I'm giving the right part to what they need to do.
Hmm.
Okay. And I'm very well equipped. If they don't know, I know a lot of laws and all. So the company
You're just
also had
giving
to
information.
understand to, yeah, just they need to understand this. Not a normal person whom you are talking to is Sasi. Okay, I'm just exploring my,
Yep,
my behavior or my characteristics to you.
I get
Okay.
it. I saw that post actually. It was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, be it any big company, I can openly challenge TCS and Cognizant. These small companies, they should better be away from me if they try to say something to me. I'm just giving a guidance, right? Do something what is reliable. Don't
Yep,
come here and make videos and post for nonsense. Okay, I shall not say this. So coming back to you, this what happens, Mark, with me. I keep on speaking, and this conversation keeps on going. Okay,
that's fine.
So let me ask you this question that I ask everyone. Mm. Give me name of five peoples, okay, that has impacted your life in a good way, okay, whom you consider your favorite list.
I obviously have to lead with my wife, Karina. She keeps me grounded. She is amazing. I don't know what I do without her. She is my everything. Um, so she obviously has to lead the list there. If you're talking about people who influenced me at work, I would have to put Tom Waltz on the list. He was kind of the owner of the mail engine at ExactTarget. He was responsible for owning that and everything else. Plus, he's just an amazing guy to be around. He he always gave the most impassioned and powerful speeches at events when he would talk about kind of his experiences and how to be a good person being a developer. He was always an awesome person and always a huge role model for me. Let me think.
Mhm.
I always think Jeff Hansen. He obviously got me in the door at Exact Target, and he was always, he left Exact Target for a while, came back, and then left again. But he was always so passionate about what he was doing, and especially getting me in the door. I'll, I I owe so much to him, and uh, thank him so often. And even between jobs, he's still been trying to help me find my next gig. So he's always just a great human being and always very helpful.
Mhm.
Um, I want to say my mother. I mean, she's got to be on the list. She always kept me grounded and kept me busy. I was,
Mhm.
you know, I was a problem child for sure. I had a lot of energy and I would get into trouble. So she would make sure that I always had plenty of stuff to do and kept me entertained. She taught me art and everything else. So kind of, she wasn't necessarily a technical person, but she kept my other side of the brain happy and kept that. Plus, paid for a lot of my college, which obviously
Mhm.
doesn't suck either. But she was just an amazing person, and I miss her a lot. Um, I think. I mean, I still think Scott Dorsey, who obviously was one of the founders of ExactTarget, he gave me the chance, and even what he's doing with High Alpha these days, helping companies get off the ground and creating new technologies. I think he's an amazing individual, and his business sense is beyond pale. He can do anything, and he obviously knows how to bring small businesses into big businesses. And a lot of my business sense and just how to run a business and do things the right way. The company core values that ExactTarget always had, be orange, all that stuff kind of flowed from him and his leadership. And I owe a lot to him, and obviously keeping me around and giving me the opportunities and everything else.
Mhm.
So he's a huge part of who I am today, just the opportunities that he's given me. Is that
Mhm.
four or is that five?
Yeah, five. Yeah. So yeah, I know. Yeah, Corina. Okay, I don't know if they are in others are LinkedIn, except not your mom. Hmm?
Yeah, no,
So
she's not.
yeah. So yeah, that I have already this about your mom. Like I have already had that pointer. At least not other pointers I had with you, but for this, I had that pointer with me. Okay,
Mhm.
but yeah, I was because of technical discussion, I went here and there. But basically, I always focus there that area only mostly. So for others like Tom, Jeff, and Scott, okay, maybe you can send me the link in links there later. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, let's talk about your mother now. For yeah, before we end, okay, I'll have only a couple of questions more. I
Okay,
know you have given a lot of time to me. Thank you for that. But
no problem.
without discussing your mother, because I love my mother than anything else. Okay, so when you said mother, then I can't just let it go. So I have to learn about your mother.
She passed in 2018, unfortunately, but she was an amazing, strong woman. She she was capable of doing anything. Her most favorite job, she worked for the fire department, one of the fire departments up in Chicago, not like as a fireman, but working like the desk and answering the phones and keeping the guys in line. She was kind of what you call like the house mom for the firemen, but she was just an amazing individual. And if you talk about someone who doesn't take BS from anyone, that was her. She she was probably one of the strongest women you would ever meet. She would call people out. She would stand up to anyone. I mean, she was only 5'2", but she was strong and powerful and just amazing. As I said, she was an artist. She would come into my school and teach art lessons for the class. Uh,
Mm.
give talks. I mean, she was passionate about art. She was always the one when our neighborhood would have like a street party or something like that. She would set up a booth to paint kids' faces with acrylic paint and whatever they wanted on their face painted. She would do that. I mean, she would do anything. I mean, she would do anything she needed to get what she needed to done. And she helped my dad when he was running his business. She was the bookkeeper for his business. He owned a tire shop in Chicago doing industrial tires like forklifts and that sort of stuff. And she was always part of his business, helping him out. And yeah, she was just amazing. I mean, she gave me
Mm.
my passion for knowledge and learning, and yeah, she just did everything.
Mm. Yeah, obviously. See, you have touched me here. That's why I'm saying this. Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay. What is the best advice that you have listened till today from someone? Anything that is best advice that is given to you?
Don't let people walk over you. Always stand up for yourself. Always be a voice for yourself. If you feel like someone is stepping on you or doing you wrong, try talk to them, figure out why, their motivation. It might help you understand other things, but just don't accept things for what they are. If you see something, try and make it better. Even if you can't directly do it, tell someone. Always be
Mm.
trying to do good in the world and try and make the world a better place than where where you came in it.
Yeah, true. Uh, and okay, so I'll end with the last one. And this again, I ask everyone. Okay. So if somebody wants to be technically good learning, okay, in respect to marketing cloud, if they want to basically excel in marketing cloud, what are the best advice that you want to give to everyone?
Understand your data. if you don't if you don't understand your data, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to figure out what to do with it. If you just put a whole bunch of data that you don't need into marketing cloud, you're just going to end up with a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to have to wade through to find what you need to. So keep your data clean, understand it. Don't just put stuff there that you think you're going to need. If it doesn't have a purpose, don't put it there. It's just going to confuse you later on down the line. It might be 6 months, it might be a year, but you'll come in and you'll say, why did I put that there? And just, the more you understand your data, the better decisions you can make about how to build your interactions with your client. If you know what all of your data means, you know how to build events off of when that data changes. You'll be able to react better to your customers' needs. But yeah, just understand your data. If you don't understand your data, you're just going to be fumbling in the dark trying to build something, and you may or may not hit the target.
That's this one is the most interesting one till now somebody has given because yeah, everything is there. So yeah, so before ending, I'll add it in the front and at the end about you, okay? Because I have to let everybody know who is Mark. Okay, so Mark was from Exact Target Days. He was he we consider him as a employee number three. Okay, though in the employee ranking he comes to 50-53, but for us as a technical aspect, he was employee number three in Exact Target. He was the principal engineer there, and then he became okay, and then he became as distinguished architect in
Yep.
Salesforce. and his span of career starts from 2003. Okay, now is 2023 is almost 20, almost exactly 20 years.
Yep, it would have been
When I
yeah.
that also,
Next 5 days would have been 20 years.
yeah,
March 3rd.
uh 5 days. Okay, when I publish it will be already 20 years. This will be from 20, when I'm, that's also I'm considering only 2003. You even started before that, okay, as a technical guy in
Hmm.
another one, right? So you had started from 1999.
Yeah, I've been writing software since about then.
Hmm.
I mean,
And
just off and on, I've been programming since like probably 1990, but actually stuff that I got paid for started in about 99 or so.
99, yeah,
Yeah, I started
1999.
my first real paid software job where I was getting paid to write software was I worked for Rand McNally testing their mapping software back in the
Mhm.
before Google Maps and that sort of stuff. Was a QA tester for them, and it was a lot of uh, coming up with different routes around the country and making sure it drew the route appropriately and didn't bring you through Canada when you're trying to go one state over.
Yeah, so this is Mark for you, and hope everybody will, once they listen, let him, guys, bring him into the LinkedIn, okay, give him more and more friend requests there so that he comes to a connection, and buzz him with a lot of questions. If he is not there to reply, obviously Corina is there to reply. So thank you so much, Mark, for
Absolutely. Thanks
taking
for
your
having
time
me.
out. And yeah, it was a very good experience to bring you here. I'll stop this recording now.
Well, thank you for having me.